Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca Ramirez, a first-year graduate student at Grand Canyon University, working towards a Master's of Education in Special Education. Today we will be discussing the attentive and referendum process in the state of Arizona and how each supports the idea of direct democracy. To begin, let's start with a brief history of where intentives and referendums came from. In 1910, Arizona was in the process of trying to obtain statehood. At the time, President Taft stood as the state's primary roadblock because of his veto against Arizona's judicial recall policy within their constitution. To gain statehood, Arizona removed this condition from its constitution and was successful in attaining the state status. Immediately after gaining statehood, Arizona promptly reintroduced the policy and has maintained the policy since, firmly establishing the state's direct democracy framework. With their new state status, Arizona developed 5 separate intentives and referendum procedures in an effort to have their constitution continuously grow and adapt to the changing times. The attentive process would allow voters to approve or reject measures that have been created by the citizens themselves, while referendums allowed them to approve or reject policies and measures created by their legislator. To get a better understanding of the intent of each, it is best to understand what it is that they are changing. There are 2 intentives in the Arizona Constitution: constitutional and statutory intentives. The first allows voters to approve or reject constitutional amendments proposed by citizens, while the second grants the same power but for new status. This grants citizens the power to add, change, or remove language from the constitutional amendments and new status, while only respectfully requiring a total of 15 or 10% of signatures from the most recent election to pass. This gives a huge power back to the people and provides a built-in system of checks and balances within their constitution. To create an intentive, a successful constitutional intentive must survive 2 separate stages: petition and ballot. The petition stage begins when a voter drafts a new amendment on the appropriate forms, where they will lay the groundwork for a single petition. The petition then is circulated to the general public through the Secretary of State. The person who is petitioning then must go and collect a minimum of 15% of supporting voters' signatures, which must be returned to the Secretary of State 4 months prior to the next election. The petitioner is given a maximum of 20 months to obtain these signatures, or else they will have to try again the following election period. Once enough signatures are gathered, the intentive is then issued in the ballot for the general election and is left to the public to possibly pass. If passed, then the intentive is written into the Constitution. The referendum, however, does not require voter approval. A referendum is a change proposed by the legislator. An average of 90 of a statute is passed. 3 referendums were introduced within the state's constitution, which gave voters control over measures drafted by the state legislature: constitutional referendum, statutory referendum by legislative referral, and the statutory referendum by voter petition. To approve a referendum, the House and State independently approve a purpose amendment, but only a single majority vote is required. Simply the approval process. Once approved by either the House or Senate, the amendment goes directly to the people, where the public voters upon the amendment in the next general election ballots. Intentives may have originally been seen as problematic because they provide people with too much control over their government. However, the progressives who developed the state constitution believed that intentives and referendums were the way that the people were able to avoid being controlled or corrupted party bosses, political machines, and powerful corporate interests. This thought process was a direct result of a direct democracy perspective. In giving the power directly to the public, the state allowed for the voices of the community to be heard when it comes to the laws that regulate their lives. Incentives were made with the public interest in mind and left to the public to vote on the matters that concern their everyday lives. Though these systems are intended to have the public interest address critical or current issues, incentives and referendums can face pitfalls and short-term focus and can be influenced by the political control they set out to combat. Ultimately, the citizens of Arizona possesses a great responsibility when it comes to their constitution, and it is one that keeps direct democracy alive. Thank you.